I often hear in the fitness space, and sometimes people, maybe in the alternative wellness and alternative health space, talk about lengthening muscles. So doing things to lengthen muscles versus shorten them or get them too big or whatnot. And I think maybe at some point it might seem intuitive that be possible, but I think once you further inspect it, you get to understand why it's not possible to do so. So I think, further from the point about the body types and that sort of thing, the length of your muscle is dictated by the distance between two joints. So that would be to say, imagine trying to lengthen a passenger bridge, or like a pedestrian bridge, sorry, between 2 points on a road. How do you make that bridge longer? You'd have to make that gap bigger, so the distance between those 2 points. That's the only way you can make that bridge longer. That's the only way you can make a muscle longer, is to lengthen the bone. And not many people will probably want to do that. And maybe I've heard of surgeries that lengthen bones. I don't think that's something that we need to be looking at here. So what does that mean? Like, how do we manage muscles, right? You work with what you got. That's first and foremost. You have to understand the type of body that you have, the length of your joints, have a length of the muscles is dictated by the distance between those joints, right? So you have to sort of work with that, right? What some people are concerned about is maybe looking like somebody who's a bodybuilder, and fortunately, and maybe unfortunately for those people, you can't do that by accident. It's very difficult to get that big. You'd have to work out almost every day. You'd have to consciously be thinking about every little thing you eat. Your life would center around putting on muscle. And I know that for most of my clients, probably 99.9%, that is not the case. You're doing this for other reasons. You're doing this to live a more fulfilled life, to feel better, to have more confidence, to be stronger, to age gracefully, whatever you want to do. That's the reason you're doing it. You're not looking to be the biggest human ever. And for that reason, it's very difficult to get big without, again, all the things I mentioned, plus maybe even some hormone injections and extracurricular supplements and all that kind of stuff, right? That being said, I think what some people, let's say in the spaces that talk about lengthening muscles, might consider is that there's a difference between a muscle that's tense and tone and a muscle that is sort of, there's not much tension or tone to it. It's sort of almost, I don't want to say flat because that's probably the bad word, the wrong word, but the longer a muscle is, the more naturally it's going to look lean. Okay, so the longer your limbs are, the more lean your muscle is going to look. And it's actually harder to put on muscle when your bones are longer, right? If you're shorter, if your bones are shorter, it's easier to put on muscle, or even the visual representation of muscle, right? Because if it gets bigger in a smaller space, it looks bigger, right? That being said, again, you want some tension in your muscles. Your muscles need to be able to tension and lengthen. And maybe one of the things that you want to ensure is that it's not overly tight at any point. But you only ever get overly tight if you're A, not working through the range of motion, and B, not training in the right ways. If you're training with a lot of integration type exercises, your muscles are going to maintain their length, if you want to call it that, because it needs to move in different directions. But let's say if you're only doing bicep curls like this, it's going to get stronger in the line of action and the way that you're using the muscle. So this is why some of the bodybuilders tend to get maybe bound up. There's probably two parts to that. Like there's a physical point where two muscles get so big that if they start to touch, then it's hard to actually move around and that sort of thing, right? But also is that your body gets used to moving in the directions you move. And for a lot of bodybuilders, it's usually forward and backwards it's usually pretty linear, right? But for most other people, you're looking to do things in a multi-dimensional way, and you maintain strength, you maintain muscle without looking like you're moving only in one direction, right? So that being said, I think a long-winded point is that you can't change the length of your muscles. That is dictated by your bone length. You want some tension in your muscles. You don't want them to be loose and flat, because that means it's like an overly stretched elastic. It doesn't have that bounce back. It doesn't have the ability to contract well. Also, you can make changes to your muscles in the way that you're training, right? If you use it in one direction, your muscles get stronger in that direction, right? If you use it multiple, it gets stronger in all those directions, right? But for most people, you're not going to get to the point where your muscles get too tense and you can't move well, because you're not training for that purpose. You're not training that often and all that sort of thing. So you cannot change the length of your muscles, but you can change their function.